Hi everybody, welcome to Chatting with Chops, or welcome back. We are going to try and make some vegan chocolate marshmallow cookies for our little vegan today. So let's get started. The first thing that we want to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees, and we need to get our baking sheets ready. So I have my baking sheets ready. The recipe recommended parchment paper, but I have slip mats, so I like to enjoy those. If you don't, parchment paper works great. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to melt our vegan butter, which I have already done that, and I have half a cup of vegan butter I'm putting in here. Then we're going to add our sugar, which we have 1 cup of granulated sugar. All right, and then most of this recipe is by hand, so you're not going to see me using my beautiful mixer in the background. So we're just going to mix that in good. And get some good arm muscles today. Okay, got that all mixed in. All right, now we're going to deviate a little bit from this recipe. I try not to do that on the first time around, but this time I just decided to throw caution to the wind. So instead of using 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed, I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of just regular unsweetened applesauce. Now again, that's taking your dry and turning it into a wet, but I'm going to compensate for that in just a second. And the sub may not be exactly right, but we'll find out as we go. And then the next thing I need to add is my vanilla. Now it says you're going to use 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. I am going to use 1 teaspoon of my vanilla bean powder. I don't use this very often, but I decided to try and use it in this. And yes, it is vegan. So there's my dry instead of a wet. And then we're putting in our soy milk, which we have 5 tablespoons of soy milk that we're putting in, and I'm using almond milk. Just use what milk I have on hand. And then we're going to stir that up real good. Oh, it smells wonderful, guys. Okay. So I've got a few tiny little clumps of my vanilla, so I'm just going to watch that. So over this bowl, let me get my spoon out of the way here. Over this bowl, we're going to sift in our dry ingredients, which, usually you do that in a separate bowl, but hey, this recipe is different. Okay, so now we want to sift in our flour. We have 1.5 cups of flour that we're going to sift in. I'll try not to do it too fast. All right, let's sift that a little bit first. Okay, and we'll do the rest of it. All right. Okay, now it's time to put in our cocoa butter. Now we need to put in our cocoa powder, which we have 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. I definitely want to sift to that. Okay. All right, and then we have our 1 teaspoon of baking soda. And that just about sifted itself there, didn't it? The recipe does include 1/4 teaspoon of salt, but my little vegan does not like a lot of salt in her recipes, so I will not be putting the salt in. Okay, now time to stir this. I'm doing it slowly so I don't spray this all over my kitchen. I should have named my channel The Messy Cook. All right, this dough is really thick, so again, like I was saying, you're really going to get your arm workout today. I'm just trying to make sure there's no cocoa left on the side of the bowl. All right, And I'm scraping the bottom really good so we're not missing any good ingredients off the bottom. We want to fold in our marshmallows and our chocolate. So what we have 1 cup of our mini vegan marshmallows. And here, let me show you real quick. I like to use these dandies. That's what I can find in my area. They're not easy to find, but that's what I usually try and use. All right, so we're gonna fold those in. Okay. And now we're gonna fold in our 1 cup of vegan chocolate chips. And you'll notice when I'm pouring these in, I had 2 different kinds of chocolate chips running around my house, so I've just kind of used some of both. Make it interesting. You don't have to do that, but I sometimes like to do that. If I'm using up one bag and going to the next, it makes it unique and different. And again, my little vegan loves things that are unique and different. Okay. Now time to make the cookies. Okay, and I will tell you, if you're hearing a soft hum in the background, my husband has a big utility fan out in the garage where he's working, and so that might be what you're hearing. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to take some heaping spoonfuls of our cookies. And I have not made these before, so I don't know how far they're going to spread out. So I'm going to be really sparing with this first cookie sheet full of cookies. Okay. Again, just taking nice heaping spoonfuls. I'm using teaspoons right now. You can use tablespoons. Again, you can make your cookies as big as you want them to. You'll just have to be very watchful when you're cooking them, baking them, because they'll take a little bit longer, or they might take a little bit less time than what the recipe says to do. Okay, so now, it says you're supposed to flatten them out a little bit, but this dough is really sticky. So I'm not quite sure if I use my typical cup method, it's just gonna stick. So I think I'm just gonna try and flatten them out a little bit with my spoon. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and put it in our 350-degree oven, and we're gonna bake them for about 10 minutes. All right, here is our first batch. They have been in the oven for 10 minutes, and they have flattened out a little bit. They didn't get as big as I thought they would, so that's kind of a safe. So we're supposed to leave them on the cookie sheet for about 5 minutes because they're super soft right now and need a little bit more baking time. So we're just gonna leave them here, and then we'll transfer them to the cooling rack. All right, so time to take them off of the cookie sheet. Oh, those turned out pretty. Look how gorgeous those are. Little gooey, but we're just gonna put these beautiful little cookies onto our cooling rack and go about and make some more cookies. And I will let you know at the end how many they make. Again, I like to make my cookies a little bit more handhold size. That way I can make more of them. Well, it looks like I succeeded in making about 33 cookies, so we have almost 3 dozen. So I'm just gonna let these last few sit on the cookie sheet for 5 minutes and then move them to the cooling rack. And as soon as they're cool enough to enjoy, we'll try one and see how they taste. I wanted to show off first and show how fantastic these cookies turned out. I wanted to get you up close and personal so you could see all the gorgeous texture that I got, and you can see all the beautiful marshmallows and the chocolate chips in them. So let's taste one. Okay, I'm gonna break this one open so y'all can see how beautiful it looks inside. Oh my God, look at all that ooey gooey goodness. That's absolutely beautiful. Just soft and moist, not too dry or crumbly. I think using the applesauce did wonderful. I don't taste any dryness or you know, real crumbly, kind of dry cookie. That is just gorgeous. Hope y'all like this video. These were the chocolate vegan s'more cookies. Please like and subscribe, and I'll keep making great cookies for you.